The United States Supreme Court has agreed to review the constitutionality of President Donald Trump's decree aimed at ending birthright citizenship in the country. The decision marks a significant moment in a long-running legal and political dispute over who is entitled to American citizenship and how the Constitution defines that right. The case now before the court centers on the administration's effort to reinterpret the long-standing principle that anyone born on U.S. soil is automatically recognized as an American citizen. Lower federal courts had previously blocked the administration from implementing the decree, ruling that the executive branch could not override the constitutional guarantee rooted in the 14th Amendment. That amendment, ratified in 1,868 inches, the aftermath of the Civil War, established the concept known as jus soli, the right of citizenship by birth on national territory. The provision was intended to protect the rights of formerly enslaved people and ensure that their descendants would be recognized fully as citizens of the United States. President Trump has argued that the current interpretation of the amendment has been misused, particularly in cases involving parents who are not legally settled in the United States. His decree orders federal authorities to stop issuing passports or citizenship certificates to children born in the country under certain circumstances. The measure is directed at children whose mothers are residing illegally in the United States, as well as those whose mothers are present only temporarily, such as on student, work, or tourist visas. The decree also states that if the child's father is not a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, the federal government should not grant citizenship documentation to the newborn. The policy reflects a broader effort by the administration to reshape immigration laws and tighten enforcement, arguing that current interpretations encourage unlawful migration and create loopholes that undermine border control. On the day he returned to the White House on January 20, the president signed the decree, describing it as part of a wider effort to combat illegal immigration. While announcing other national security and enforcement initiatives, he offered a direct remark explaining the approach in a separate context during comments about U.S. actions targeting suspected drug trafficking operations. He said, "I think you're going to find that there's a very receptive ear to doing exactly what they're doing, taking out those boats. And very soon we're going to start doing it on land too. Because we know every route, we know every house, we know where they manufacture this crap, we know where they put it all together. And I think you're going to see it very soon on land also." While the statement referred specifically to anti-narcotics operations, it reflected the administration's broader posture toward enforcement-led policies, which has become a central theme across immigration, border control, and security decisions. The Supreme Court's decision to hear the case follows a procedural development earlier in the year. On June 27, the court issued a ruling that limited the ability of lower court judges to issue nationwide injunctions that block executive actions they consider unlawful. That decision narrowed judicial authority on interim measures, but it did not address the core question now before the court, whether the president's decree on birthright citizenship is constitutional. The issue carries significant implications for immigration policy and for the interpretation of one of the Constitution's most consequential amendments. Advocates for maintaining birthright citizenship argue that the 14th Amendment's language is clear, unambiguous, and historically grounded. They note that for more than 150 years, the provision has been interpreted to guarantee citizenship to all individuals born on U.S. soil, with very limited exceptions, such as children of foreign diplomats. Opponents of the current interpretation argue that the framers did not intend to extend citizenship to children of individuals who were not legally subject to U.S. jurisdiction, and they contend that Congress or the courts must clarify the scope of the amendment. The administration has stated that federal agencies should recognize citizenship only when at least one parent has a legal and permanent connection to the United States. As legal scholars, advocacy groups, and government agencies examine the consequences of the policy if upheld, the case has attracted national and international attention. The review will determine whether the executive branch has the authority to reinterpret constitutional language through a presidential decree, or whether such a change would require an act of Congress or an amendment to the Constitution itself. While the legal proceedings move forward in Washington, the broader immigration enforcement landscape continues to evolve. Recent footage from Louisiana and other states shows U.S. Border Patrol and Customs and Border Protection agents involved in ordinary enforcement activities, including detentions, vehicle checks, and transfers of individuals in custody. In one instance, Border Patrol agents were recorded detaining a man and ordering journalists to stand back as they secured the area. These scenes illustrate the routine enforcement environment in which the birthright citizenship debate is unfolding, though they are not directly related to the Supreme Court case. At the White House, President Trump has continued to defend his administration's stance on immigration and border control. He has stated repeatedly that the current system encourages illegal entry and places a burden on federal resources. He maintains that the decree aims to correct what he describes as long-standing flaws in immigration policy that have been overlooked for decades. Officials involved in immigration policy argue that the decree would create clearer guidelines for determining citizenship eligibility while reducing incentives for individuals to travel to the United States for the purpose of giving birth. Critics counter that the measure would create legal ambiguity for thousands of families, risk leaving children stateless, and undermine a central pillar of American constitutional identity. The Supreme Court will be required to weigh these arguments within the framework of constitutional text, historical precedent, and the limits of executive power. The court's decision is expected to set a major precedent for future administrations and could shape the understanding of citizenship for generations. Legal analysts note that the case presents one of the most significant constitutional questions to reach the court in recent years. Few issues combine constitutional interpretation, immigration policy, and presidential authority as directly as this one. The justices will be tasked with determining whether the executive branch acted within its legal rights or whether the decree exceeds constitutional boundaries. As the nation awaits the court's deliberations, both supporters and opponents of the decree acknowledge that the ruling will have lasting implications. For individuals affected by the policy, including families with mixed immigration status or temporary visas, the decision will determine whether their children are considered citizens from birth. The 14th Amendment remains central to the discussion. Its opening line, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States," stands at the heart of over a century of legal and social precedent. The court will need to determine how that language applies in the contemporary context and whether the president's decree aligns with or contradicts that long-standing interpretation. Across the country, immigration enforcement continues daily, with federal agents monitoring routes, conducting operations, and engaging in routine patrols from border regions to interior cities. While these activities are separate from the Supreme Court case, they form part of the wider policy environment in which the legal debate is taking place. The Supreme Court's review is expected to proceed in the coming months, with written briefs, oral arguments, and a final ruling anticipated after the full legal process is completed. The outcome will determine whether the decree stands, is struck down, or requires further legislative action. The case marks a pivotal moment in defining the boundaries of presidential authority and the constitutional meaning of citizenship in the United States. The final ruling will determine the legal future of the decree and clarify the extent of the executive branch's power to reinterpret established constitutional principles. The Supreme Court's forthcoming ruling will determine whether President Trump's decree can legally alter the long-standing interpretation of birthright citizenship or whether the constitutional guarantee remains unchanged. The decision will define the limits of executive authority and clarify how the 14th Amendment applies in the modern era, setting a precedent that will shape U.S. citizenship policy for years to come.